I am with Cailin McBee, and Cailin is the owner of Balance Massage and Wellness Center. And I am super excited to be talking with her this morning, not only because of her expertise in making people feel better, but also she is a fellow Chamber of Commerce member, very active in the community. And when I jumped on the Newington Chamber of Commerce last year, I was really excited. Was it last year? No, actually, it was this year. It's all mushed.
It feels like it was 10 years ago.
Sure
Welcome to
does.
2020.
I knew you reached out to me immediately, and we started talking, and we kind of have a very similar perspective on the way that we like to take care of people, and that is, seeing people as a whole and treating from the perspective of a human being, not just kind of zeroing in on a sign or a symptom or an injury. So I wanted to take, my background working in athletics and mush it with your background in massage therapy and all that comes along with that, to start a conversation with the athletic community to think broader. So when we're dealing with pain, when we're dealing with injury, when we're dealing with stress, many of us are armed with the typical things. We always promote, sleep, hydration, and proper nutrition. So if you have an individual or a coach or a parent who is looking to supplement that to help either their athlete, if they're a parent or a coach, or maybe themselves, let's maybe look at a bigger picture, another piece of the wellness puzzle. So I don't know if you want to jump in, Cailin, maybe talk a little bit about what you do, and we'll kind of dive in.
Sure. So I am a board certified massage therapist and also a Reiki master. And having been in the industry, this is my 20th year, which is hard to believe. But, over the course of that time, I've seen some patterning that coordinates with how people are feeling and what they're doing as they're coming in to see me. So one of the things that you just mentioned was looking at our clients or our athletes in a holistic way. If we only look at them as a shoulder injury or an ACL tear, that's not really giving us the whole picture. And so oftentimes we talk about other things like, what's your diet look like? Are you just eating garbage? Because garbage in, garbage out. And if we're looking at athletic performance, if we're looking at injury prevention, if we're looking at longevity or creating personal records or, landing that, sticking that landing or whatever that sort of goal is, looking at the big picture is what we need to do. So part of that you mentioned is sleep and stress levels. And, we've been in this, I'll call it a high stress time. Would you agree with that?
A little bit. Mm-hmm. We're fine. Everyone's fine.
Yeah, we're fine. We're fine.
Yep.
You get the sort of the deer in headlights look.
Sure.
And so a lot of people have been coming in and talking about how their sleep has been affected because of their stress levels. Mm-hmm. And there's a ton of studies on the effect that sleep has on athletic performance and injury prevention. And I want to just read you a quick little blurb. I want to make sure I'm getting it right. So forgive me for the read here. But in Stanford University, they conducted a sleep extension study with the men's basketball team. So, a pretty well-known group. They maintained a normal sleep schedule for 4 weeks. And then for 7 weeks, they extended their sleep with the goal of getting 10 hours a night. Now, not everybody needs 10 hours, but what they found was the measures of athletic performance specific to basketball were recorded after every practice. So they demonstrated faster timed sprints during a sleep extension. Their shooting accuracy improved by quite a bit, I think. Free throws by 9% and three-point field goals by 9.2%. So for me, that reads into the fact that when you're rested and you are focusing on sleep, it affects every aspect of your life. And specifically with athletic performance, it's all of those things. It's accuracy, it's speed, it's injury reduction. So it's really important to make sure that that's part of, as an athlete, what you're looking to really focus on as part of your training. It's all part of that training.
Right. Yeah. I mean, dead on. And I love that, there are robust studies out, in terms of sleep and athletic performance. So from your perspective, when we're living in this world that we're living right now, when the stress levels are high and a lot of things are out of our control, and as healthcare professionals, we always try to talk to our clients, our patients, our athletes, control the controllables. Well, there are a lot of things that might be out of our control, canceled seasons, attenuated seasons, changes in exposure for your sport. Maybe a goal is to play in college or play at the next level. So maybe that sleep is something that we're struggling with. We're having a hard time either getting the full deep sleep that our body needs, or maybe they're having trouble falling asleep. So how can we look at that from a holistic standpoint to maybe assist these athletic individuals, coaches, and families? How do we get them better sleep? What are some maybe tips that you can provide?
So sort of a three-pronged suggestion here. The first is to incorporate a mindfulness into your everyday. And mindfulness is a little bit of a broad term, but really what that means is living in the present moment, trying to release some of the thoughts from the past and not worry about things that are happening in the future, because those are things we can't control, right? What we can control is right now. Another tip that I suggest for people is to start practicing some deeper breaths. Physiologically, deep breathing is so helpful to get your body into that parasympathetic, that rest and digest
I love it. Tell me
system.
more.
Yeah. So, that deep breathing, again, brings you into that mindful place, because if the only thing that you're thinking about is your breath, you're not worrying about if the game is going to happen next week, or you're not worrying about the practice that got canceled yesterday. You're really just living in that moment, and it allows the brain to have kind of a meditative quality. So that deep breathing brings you into that relaxed state, which is where you want your body to be, because that's where all the regeneration happens on a cellular level, on a structural level.
Mm-hmm.
And then the other thing that I suggest is some essential oils. They can be really helpful to get your body, again, into that physiological rest and digest, that parasympathetic system. So, this is not going to be an essential oils class by any means, but just to kind of give you a couple of bullet points about some things that can be helpful. The first point that I always really want to drive home is that the oils that you use need to come from a reputable manufacturer. So they need to be pure. There should be no added synthetics. There should be no herbicides or pesticides in the material that's used to make these essential oils. So if you're just popping into, a big box store because it's convenient and you see an oil on the shelf, I don't recommend that you do that. There's no regulation. And so even though you could pick up 2 bottles and they smell the same, but the important part of the reason that essential oils work is because of the exact chemical composition. And so they might smell the same, but if it's a synthetic that just has the similar scent, it's not doing what it's supposed to do.
Okay.
So I always like to make sure that people are educated with that. And there's a lot of really great and reputable manufacturers out there. Just ask the right questions. Make sure that all of those are part of what you're discussing with the person that you're dealing with. So the next thing is how you actually use them. So I've got a couple of examples here of ways that you can use them. The first is to diffuse them. So a diffuser is a little machine that you put water in, and then you put several drops of essential oil in, you plug it in, and then it aerates the water, which then picks up the droplets of the essential oil. So it makes the room smell. It's very light. It's what is considered to be a very safe way to diffuse oils. Mm-hmm. Do make sure that you're using a diffuser and not a humidifier. Don't put oils in the humidifier, because the droplets that come out from the humidifier are actually larger and they don't pick up the essential oils. The diffuser actually is an ultrasonic disc that vibrates the water so fast that it
interesting.
Vaporizes, I think that's the right word, or diffuses that liquid into the air. Okay. The next way is you can create a roller ball. So this is good for again, all of these were addressing things like sleep. So these are great. This is a great option to use at bedtime, or if you're feeling a little bit anxious. Again, getting those stress levels down, whether it's before a game or, we've all got a lot of high stress levels. So you'll notice that these come in their glass. You want to make it in a glass container because plastic is affected by essential oils in a non-positive way.
Okay.
So you put, for our purposes, probably the healthy average person, only 3 or 4 drops of essential oil, and then the rest is what we call a carrier oil. So that's the percentage that you're looking for. Then this is a little it actually has a little roller ball in the top.
Sure,
so then you can put this in the palms of your hands, on the bottoms of your feet. And then another way is to use what I call an inhaler. I really like this one because there's no liquid involved. So it's an organic cotton wick that you put the essential oils directly on. And then this wick goes inside this little plastic container. Again, because it's not the liquid, it doesn't make a difference that this is plastic. And this has a couple little holes in it and then a cover. So you can put this into your backpack. You can travel with it. There's no restrictions on the liquid part. And anytime you're feeling anxious or need kind of a calm down, you just unscrew this. You can wave it in front of your nose. Again, it's sort of a twofer. You can practice that deep breathing at the same time that you're taking in the scent of that essential oil.
Okay.
So those are going to be the top 3 ways I would suggest. So then, of course, the next question is, well, what oils are going to be the best for what we're looking for? And essential oils come from plants. So they are the essence of plants. They're not oily, even though oil is in the word. They're not slimy or greasy. So the first and foremost sort of end all be all to relaxation is lavender oil. Again, it's regarded as extraordinarily safe to use for most people. It has kind of a floral scent, but it's not sickly sweet. And again, any of this can be used in either the diffuser or the roller ball or in that inhaler. You can diffuse it in your bedroom. This is actually an oil that's safe enough. You can use directly on your skin. So it doesn't have to be cut with a carrier oil. You can put 1 or 2 drops in the palms of your hands also, rub them together, and then again, sort of wave it towards your nose so you can feel it. Some people don't like lavender, which is fine. The next most sedative oil is bergamot, and that's another really great option. This has a very citrusy scent to it, so it kind of smells like a mix between a lemon and a lime and a grapefruit maybe, and that's really wonderful for that general relaxation. And then the last one that I always suggest is vetiver. Vetiver, I'm saying this from a loving and kind place. It smells like dirt. It's very earthy.
Okay.
So imagine if you've just if you sort of put your head in a forest. That's what it reminds me of. It sort of smells like bark, tree bark, and the ground and earth. And I remember its properties because it smells like earth and it grounds you.
Okay.
So it's very, it's a good oil to mix with other oils too. So I often will combine, if like the bergamot and vetiver, you can mix and match and put those into the diffuser. So if you mix and match this smells sort of like earthy citrus. And then if you mix and match the vetiver with the lavender, it has a little bit of a floral, but it smells almost like a garden. So whatever your preference is there. Again, I really like the vetiver because of its grounding properties. It is sedative, so it is relaxing, but it's also very focusing. There's been additional research about ADD and attention deficit and using vetiver. It's giving children a much more focused outlook. So this is great for before bed, but it's also really great before a big game. If you really need that that focus on what the next play is, or making sure that your head's in the game, if you will, vetiver's a really great oil for that.
Awesome. And I love 2 of the 3 I have actually used with athletes before in a yoga class. And so I had a lot of first-time yogis, and working in a secondary school setting, introducing them not only to yoga for, flexibility and balance and all those really important things to, to offset the work that they're doing in their sport. I did introduce them to some aromatherapy, and at the end of class, when they're enjoying their final relaxation, it was kind of like a gamble whether I was going to do it or not, and what the response was going to be. And it was always super positive. They were always like, Miss T, what was that smell?
And, what was that smell?
They're sort of, and they would beg for it. They would ask for it. Like for the next time I would have their team for, their yoga slot. They were like, oh, are you going to break the smell thing out again? And you know what? I think there's a lot of misinformation about essential oils. They are not being used to miraculously, heal on an injury. You spray it on an ankle sprain and oh my gosh, their injury is better. It is meant to create an environment of wellness. And from everything that you described to me, a lot of it is based on the sense of smell. You're smelling that little kind of inhaler thing that you have, or if it's being diffused, you smell it. And that sense of smell has such a huge connection with our brain, and it has a huge connection with parts of the brain in terms of like memory and that association. So, I mean, I don't know if you want to speak to that briefly about how our sense of smell causes that sense of relaxation. Like, how does it work?
So the sense of smell is the neurons that pick up the scents in the air have a direct connection with the brain. So it doesn't actually have to be processed in the same way that your sense of sight or your hearing. Your brain has to take that information in and then process it and then it has an outcome. So that sense of smell does have that direct connection. And, to your point, creating that memory, I think we've all had that time where you smelled something and it took you right back to where you were, perhaps when you first smelled it. Like,
food.
Yeah, I was just going to say, like grandma's apple pie. Every time you smell apple pie, you immediately think of grandma because that scent has been associated with your grandmother. And so for athletes, that could be a really great way of thinking about muscle memory and performance that you had. If you're, for example, if you're using that Vetiver before a game, it kind of gets your head in that game. And then, so every time you smell that, it's going to take you back to that place where you can recreate that same movement or the same activity that you're doing as, on the field or on the court or whatever. So.
Awesome. I mean, the sense of smell is a really powerful thing. And to anyone who's had an experience with aromatherapy, typically the feedback is really good. Now, on the flip side of that, I had some questions about, what if I have allergies, or what if I get migraines? Will that make it worse? Because sometimes smell can be a trigger. What would you tell an individual who had a question like that?
Sure. So first of all, I'm going to go with the duh answer. If you're allergic to lavender, don't use lavender.
Don't smell it.
Don't smell it. Let's start there. Okay. It's like the commercials that say, if you're allergic to this medication, don't take it. Well, okay, duh.
Yeah.
And certainly some people know that they have particular allergies. Obviously, avoid what you're allergic to. What my experience has been, though, is that people are getting a negative reaction, not always from the essential oil, but just the scent. And let me explain that. So when I talked about how the essential oils need to come from a reputable manufacturer so that they don't have added synthetics or fillers, oftentimes those fillers or those additives or those synthetics are what the people are actually having a reaction to. And so even people who say, oh, I always get a headache from such and such, I say, well, if you're open to it, let's try this. And very often they don't have that same negative reaction.
That's actually a really good point. And I'll relate that to something that's maybe a little bit realistic to those who might be listening, are supplements. It's the same thing. Yes. Everybody wants a magic pill to get faster and bigger and stronger. And just as, oils aren't necessarily regulated, it's the same game.
100%.
Your supplements, there's no FDA regulation. So, you pay for what you get. So you want to just
Yes.
be mindful about whatever you're purchasing or putting in your body or smelling or whatever that might be, because there is no regulation on that. So,
Right.
you know, I love how you point out, it just never clicked in my mind that if you're buying, you know, the cheapest option, oh, well, Jen or Cailin said, try lavender. I go to run to
And
my
you're like,
favorite
oh,
store. I
it's
bought it.
$1.99. That's
Yeah,
awesome. Okay,
I
well,
bought it and now I
it's
have a headache.
very right. And so there are, you know, the pricing on oils varies widely from oil to oil because of the process of the steam
The sourcing.
distillation, you know, the materials that you need in order to get that oil. So, you know, if the only factor when you're buying your oils is the price that you pay, it's not going to be likely that you're going to get something that's reputable. You're just going to be buying something that smells, and it may smell exactly like bergamot, but it doesn't have the same chemical composition. So it's not going to create that same change in your body. It's just going to smell the same. The other thing to note is on the headache part, is that these oils are very potent. You do not need a lot of them in order to create that change.
Okay.
So it's not like you're walking into, you know, a jar candle store where it just completely hits you in the face. You don't have to have that much. In fact,
And that's why the jars are so little.
yeah, I mean, this, you know, these are, I think these are only 10, no, this is half an ounce. So anytime I'm using even my big diffuser that has 500 milliliters of water, the entire 500 milliliters of water only gets between 10 and 15 drops of the oil, because that's all you need. So they're really potent and powerful. You know, this roller ball, which is 10 mils, you only put between 3 and 4 drops in. So you don't need a lot of volume.
More is
in
not
order
better.
Yeah. And again, for people who may be scent sensitive, that's a good thing too, to not have it be as potent. So
I think one of the last and interesting things that we had put on our list to talk about today was using essential oils when recovering from concussion. So, you know, lots of attention in the athletic community about concussions. And, you know, a lot of that, we don't have control over that healing. We could, you know, generate an environment that's conducive to healing. But a lot of it comes down to the way that person is going to heal. And, you know, age plays a role, history plays a role, gender sometimes will play a role. So a lot of those things are out of our control. But if we want to foster an environment for healing, which is what athletic trainers do, massage therapists, this is what we're all trying to do, is to foster that environment. What did you find for studies? Were you finding anything out there for essential oils and concussions? I did a little research. I'm curious what you found.
yeah, so the main goal of healing involves getting a lot of oxygen to the areas, making sure that it's highly nutrient rich and oxygen rich to incorporate the best healing circumstance. And so one of the oils that kept coming up over and over and over as I was doing some research is frankincense. Yes, it is the frankincense of the Bible times. It's the same thing. It comes from, I think it comes from the bark of the frankincense tree. But anyways, so frankincense has been shown to improve blood flow to the brain, which is obviously really important for healing and concussions. And one of the theories is that it also helps to flush out some of the metabolites that some of those symptoms that a concussion have.
Okay.
So frankincense is one that is recommended. Another one, surprise, surprise, is lavender, because again, it promotes that rest and digest, and that's when our bodies are in their prime state for healing.
Absolutely.
So lavender. And then the last one, just from a symptomatic perspective, is peppermint oil. Peppermint oil is an analgesic. It's a pain, helps address pain. So you can actually put, you can smell the peppermint oil, and then you can actually put it with a little bit of a carrier oil, either on the temples or on the back of the neck, and that can help with headaches, which obviously is one of the symptoms of
a big one. And I think as a parent too, you know, it's important to know that it's not making the concussion heal. It's easing the symptoms, and no one wants to see their kid not feel well. And, you know, in my years working, you know, on the sidelines, I think that's one of the things that a lot of athletes would deal with is just the headache, kind of feeling in a fog.
That's the other thing.
Photophobia sometimes that can give the headache. You just don't feel good. So if there's something that is non-harmful that could mitigate some of those symptoms while the brain heals.
For sure.
I mean, for me as a parent myself, I mean, I would be open to it. I know it's not going to hurt my kid, but so if it's going to ease their discomfort, it's just something that's a nice option to consider. So yeah, awesome. What did I not cover today with you? I mean, we've covered so many really, really good things. And I think we agreed, we're like, all right, 10, 15 minutes. Like it's hard on such a broad subject to put a time limit on that. And I can foresee, you know, us having more conversations. I love the mindfulness. So we probably should do something on that. What else did I not cover today? You know, for somebody who might be considered a novice or curious about, you know, using essential oils, you know, for their athlete or, you know, as an athlete themselves. Anything else as a take-home message, you think?
I certainly think that the essential oils are obviously part of what we wanted to talk about today. The last bit that I think is really important to make sure that we do discuss is your environment for sleep. Because you can do everything right, or you can try these essential oils, or you can try the deep breathing, but holistically, you need to be preparing your body for sleep. So making sure that your room is really dark, making sure that you are off your electronics, close to bed.
That's a hard sell.
It's a hard sell. I get it, but it's really, really important.
It is.
That
blue light
is a big deal. Speaking with the blue light, I would change both your laptop or whatever handhelds you are, so that as the sun goes down, it changes to the orange light. To reduce the blue. If possible, you want to have a room that's a little bit cooler. And then again, to circle back, diffusing some of these essential oils in the bedroom is a really great way to, again, set yourself up to be successful for that sleep, because that rest and sleep time is just so crucial for our health in general, and specifically for athletes.
Absolutely. That is when we heal. That is when we regenerate all of our protein synthesis and all of our really important processes. So I appreciate this talk so much. I'm glad we got to do this, Cailin. So much good information. And at the end, I will post email addresses. Is that okay if I post your email? And if someone has any questions, particularly essential oils, like I dabble, but I would always defer to Cailin on this one. So if you do have any additional questions, you can certainly contact either of us. But otherwise, I think that covers kind of our goal for today. So I appreciate you taking the time. This is a Saturday morning for both of us. So I'm appreciative of that and all of your knowledge. So
thanks so much, Jen. It was great chatting. And I always feel like I in all of our conversations, I learn a little something. So thank you.
Same as well. So yeah, I agree. If it's not a day without learning, then I got to find something else then. So yes, thank you for teaching me, and hopefully our not watchers. What would you call them? Our listeners, watchers, viewers. Thank you. Hopefully that they pick up something too. So have a wonderful rest of the day, Cailin. Thank you for your time, and let's do this again soon.
Okay. Bye-bye.